5:40 in the morning, and my phone alarm is going off. 5:45. Time to wake up for real.
All right, it is 6:20. Time for my first espresso. And it is 6:45, 7:45, 12:45, 2:45. This is like the last chance of the day for me to get caffeine in me and not totally screw up my sleep. Let's do this. Number 5 espresso.
Welcome to Good and Decent, a podcast by Grotto Network. Stories of ordinary people living in extraordinary ways. Episode 1, Finding Awe.
There's probably nothing more universally awe-inspiring than the night sky studded with stars. Some people chase down this sense of curiosity about the stars their whole life. Mila is one of those people. Grotto sat down to talk with Mila on the rooftop of the Harvard and Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics.
I think I like astronomy because it is so shamelessly about curiosity. You don't pretend that it's useful. You're just curious, and then you go see how you can answer those questions.
It's a warm, sunny day in Boston. The sky is clear, save for a few soft white clouds. Mila radiates excitement about her work. She wears a bright orange dress and sits comfortably in front of a large white and gray structure. A telescope, it turns out. This telescope is bigger than the entirety of my apartment.
I think it's mind-blowing that we, pretty small creatures on a pretty average planet around a pretty average star in a very average galaxy out of hundreds of millions of galaxies in the visible universe, get to use our brains and computers and telescopes to study the deepest mysteries of the universe. Dark matter makes up about a fourth of the energy budget of the universe, and dark energy is about 70%. And all the normal matter, which is everything that you're familiar with, is just 4% of the universe.
She takes us into her office and describes her unique role in the study of the origin and evolution of the universe. We walk with Mila down a hallway in an industrial-looking building to her office space, which is like a science teacher's dream. We see all these globes of different sizes dotting the shelves alongside of her.
The way that I test different models of dark matter and dark energy is by taking different ideas and then making movies of what those ideas mean for how the universe looks over time. And then I work with my collaborators who actually use telescopes to look at the universe at different points in its history and essentially compare what they see to the movies that I make.
Then she shows us the movies she's made. One looks like the inside of a lava lamp. The next looks like a time-lapse of a galaxy formation. It's like she's making art of science in these movies.
You can know that dark matter is there by looking at how fast stars are moving around the center of a galaxy, or how fast galaxies are moving around the center of a galaxy cluster. People get caught up in all these bizarre notions that are totally constructed about what a meaningful life looks like. No, what matters is how I can see the world around me and how I can connect to it and how I can be amazed by it and how I can pursue that amazement to its end with no ulterior motives, right?
After a day spent with Mila, we head back up to the roof. The sun has gone down and soon the stars will come out. She's already looking up in anticipation, her eyes surveying the night sky, her whole body at the ready for what the universe might reveal to her on this night.
When you tell people you're an astronomer, the first reaction is, wow, I loved space when I was a child. Almost everybody says that. and you get to be the person who just never stopped.
Wonder and Awe in the Study of Cosmology is a Grotto story. It was produced by Aria Swar and Dane Christensen.
Oh, well, isn't she great?
She is.
I'm jealous of her. I'm jealous of her being able to look up like that and still have such wonder and joy and optimism. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm great. How are you?
Are you really great, or are you just saying that because...
I'm pretty good, but
Okay.
you probing like that makes me think you are not.
I might be projecting. I'm not doing good. I'm having a day of days.
What is happening on this day of days?
Well,
It takes big sip of coffee.
it's not even coffee. It's throat coat tea because I'm trying to be a professional here today.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
So today, it's a little stressful, but it kind of feels like every other day that I have had since March 13th, since going into lockdown, which means all the days have been a little stressful, a little full, a little nerve-wracking.
What does a day in your life look like? What has been the constant since mid-March in Javi's life?
Sarah, when you ask that question, I can answer it with the exact rundown of what my day is, starting at 5:40 a.m. when my alarm goes off.
Let's do it.
5:45 a.m. when I have lights time to turn on to make sure that I wake up to that alarm at 5:40.
What?
I do, yeah. So I get up.
Wow.
I have my first shot of coffee, of espresso, by like 6:05.
My mouth is agape. I wish you can see me, but people can't.
And then I just had my fifth shot of espresso at 12:45, which is when it usually needs to happen for me to function in the afternoon. So.
Yeah. You're clearly a routine-driven individual, which I can appreciate.
Okay, thank you. Some would say it's boring, and they would be right.
Well, I think everyone's life has felt pretty boring since quarantine has kicked in and captured us all. So I would say lots of people are probably experiencing the same sort of struggle to get through the monotony of the day.
It is hard, especially when you were staring at the same walls, the same rooms, the same ceilings.
The same screen.
The same screen.
The same feelings.
It has just felt like a wash, I think, these days and weeks and months, where I find myself at days thinking to myself, today was just like yesterday and just like the day before. And so with that said, does today matter? Which is an awful thing to think, but I think it is definitely something that has come through my mind repeatedly since March. Does today matter, or should I just give up on it?
I don't know if you had to name that, like what's missing from your life. I mean, it sounds like it's a sense of joy. I don't know, maybe like a sense of wonder?
I think you hit it on the nail. It is wonder. It is awe. It is having the world stop because something really wonderful is before you.
So it's kind of like wonder is the antidote to monotony. Can you find time for those moments like that? Can you just get yourself up and walk outside and see the sunrise and experience wonder and be like, great, now my day is starting off on a different note than it would in the monotony of things?
I don't know, because usually when sunrise is happening is the moment when I need my second pour of espresso, and that's just like, I don't know if I can squeeze it in there. That's going to be tough.
Yeah,
Sarah.
you're
That's gonna be
inside and
tough.
you're debating like reach for the coffee or reach for the door outside.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But maybe.
When was the last time you like really felt wonder and awe just bursting out of your being? When was that?
So there was a moment when I was practically struck over the head with awe and wonder. And not to humble brag, but it was while I was in safari and in...
I'm sorry, what was that? One more time.
While I was on a safari.
Oh. Wow. When did you do that?
2015. You know, that was hashtag year of safari. No, I had an incredible opportunity in 2015 to travel to Tanzania with two really wonderful guys, Pat and Pete, who happened to be Roman Catholic priests. I've known Pat Reidy as many things. First as my RA when I was a freshman in college, then as my confirmation sponsor, and as my mentor. And now I know him as Father Pat Reidy, Catholic priest. A few years ago, we found ourselves inexplicably in the remote village of Kitete in central Tanzania. We were there visiting a parish, St. Brendan's. As we walk along, we are surrounded by the beauty of the land. It's a warm evening. The sun is just beginning to hover at the horizon, casting an orange glow across the campus of St. Brendan's. They've got a church, a technical school, and the beginnings of a college. They've also got a rickety basketball hoop that Father Pat is about to try and dunk on with a large rock. In all my years of knowing Father Pat, I've never known him as a basketball player.
Yep. Though I don't need to dribble, which is normally the issue.
Right, because well, a basketball hitting my shoulder coming down is one thing. A rock coming down hitting my shoulder.
Right.
All right, Reidy.
As soon as I started, I was like, this motion is going to end badly. I like that.
We went to Tanzania to visit a series of religious communities from Father Pat's order. I was there to film the trip. Going on safari was never on the itinerary. It was outside of the budget. But the priest at St. Brendan's, Father Chongwei, insisted that we had to visit the Ngorongoro crater and take some of his younger seminarians with us. He paid for the excursion himself, which was a huge and unexpected gift. His parish had only just got electricity a few weeks earlier. So imagine our surprise as we load into a Land Cruiser and basically drive onto Pride Rock from Disney's The Lion King. All around the truck are wildebeest, hyenas, zebras, elephants, a rhino, and so much more. All of Tanzanian seminarians are grinning and ecstatic. We're all jumping over each other in the truck, trying to get the best view out the window of whatever animals around us. They've never seen this incredible stretch of land either. We're all in awe.
The closest I thought I'd get to this is an animated Disney movie. As we find ourselves surrounded by the beauty of God's creation, we offer great thanksgiving. We give praise and thanks to God as we begin in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. The Lord be with you. My brothers, be prepared to celebrate. So I celebrated Mass in the middle of the Ngorongoro crater. There aren't many altars in the middle of the crater. We made do with the hood of our Land Cruiser, which was stupendous to begin with, and as a tall person, I appreciated the height.
That laugh you hear is Father Pete McCormick, another wonderful Holy Cross priest on this trip. I sat down with the two to take stock of what this incredible experience had meant to them. It was a gorgeous setting for an interview. The Great Rift Valley just a few miles off in the distance, the sun soft and golden across St. Brendan's fields, boys from the surrounding villages playing soccer in the evening's glow.
To hear the words of Scripture, to hear the first reading was from Exodus, the giving of the Ten Commandments. The gospel reading was about seeds being sown in different places. To pray the Eucharistic prayer, to look around and exchange peace in the midst of something so much bigger than me.
I've known Pat as many things over the years. friend, mentor, priest. And perhaps more memorable than celebrating Mass with him in the Ngorongoro crater was seeing how emotional the experience had made him. You can't see it, but right there, he's wiping a tear away from his eyes, just talking about the Mass.
It brought together, for a rare moment in my priesthood, the utter incomprehensibility of the Mass, the celebration of the Eucharist, and the drawing together of heaven and earth, the bringing into communion, the whole communion of saints, was utterly astounding. Utterly astounding. And I guess maybe because I grew up finding God in nature, that being amidst natural beauty is gonna allow my wires to cross in such a way that connection can be made. But to hear the words of Scripture and to pray the prayers looking out upon this awe-inspiring creation was something else. And it was on the hood of a Land Cruiser, which is just ridiculous. Like, who does that? It was so cool.
The safari was an unforgettable experience, but so was this interview. I got to see my friend's joy at his chosen path in life, one very different than mine. But there in Tanzania, in the Ngorongoro crater, atop this Land Cruiser, he had found himself right where God wanted him to be.
May Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Go and announce the gospel of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
It's awesome. Thanks, dudes. Thank you for your help.
I'm guessing you're one of the few priests who can say that he celebrated Mass in that space as well.
Yeah,
Be my guess.
That was a different kind of consecration of space.
Celebrating Mass in the Ngorongoro crater is a Grotto story. It was produced by me, Javi Zubizarreta. So I wasn't just on this trip as some sort of joyride with these two priests. I was there for work. I was filming this excursion. I'm filming Mass, but also I'm celebrating Mass. I'm taking part in it as a Catholic, which is a very strange thing to be trying to split those two roles of worship and filming. We were all really emotional because of that coming together of sacrament and environment. And I talked to Pat about it afterwards. He was really emotional about it too. You know, Pat is a young priest.
He was your RA?
He was my RA.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
I looked up to him like he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. He helped me through every freshman year crisis. But, you know, Pat was only a few years into the priesthood at that point. It was just an incredibly beautiful moment for him.
It sounds amazing. First of all, I'm incredibly jealous that you were on safari.
It was
with
pretty cool.
with your band of men riding through, you know, your herd of zebras. But yeah, sounds like just an incredible opportunity. And yeah, I mean, I wonder, I don't know, so like if that has stuck with you this much, right? Yeah. If that's something that you keep coming back to, I assume it has to be that way for Pat too. I sort of wonder what it would be like to catch up with him and kind of ask him if he's suffering from the same thing we all are, you know, the monotony of life in quarantine and kind of, I don't know, what he has to say about finding wonder and awe in this kind of weird time that we're living in.
Well, I'm still on speaking terms with him, despite all my freshman year shenanigans. Should I give him a ring?
I think that'd be great, yeah.
All right, let's see if he answers. How you doing, Pat?
Doing great. It's nice to see you.
How's life out there in Yale?
Oh man, you know, it's just a nonstop thrill ride, really. There's, you know, nothing more bolstering to your self-confidence as a budding attorney than knowing that you don't understand the Internal Revenue Code. But no, all's well. I could be doing a lot worse.
So Pat, I don't know if you remember, but back when I was a freshman and you were a senior in undergrad and you were my RA, I remember coming to you late one night about 3 a.m. asking for all sorts of big life existential questions. And thankfully it's not 3 a.m, but I've got some more big questions for you. Think you can help me out?
we'll see what we can do. Back in those days, I think 3 a.m. was my normal operating hours, but I'm grateful to visit with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking today about the monotony that I think we find ourselves in this current moment with COVID, with staying at home, staying isolated. I know for me, it's been both a way to stay sane and a way to stay safe is to keep the same routine over and over and over again, to the point where I can like tell to the exact minute that it's time for my third coffee of the day. But we were talking about this boredom, and Sarah asked me, when was the last time you felt such incredible awe? And my mind went to a moment that we had together in Tanzania a few years back. And you said Mass for us and a small group of Tanzanian and East African seminarians. I'm just curious, what do you recall most from that moment?
Yeah, gosh, that's a wonderful place to return to, particularly when in this moment, like you, I feel like I'm sort of living Groundhog's Day, the same sort of wake up, pray, work, do the same thing over and over again here in the church basement. What strikes me most in remembering Tanzania and the Ngorongoro crater is the fact that Mass happened at all. And at first glance, that shouldn't be super striking. We brought a Mass kit. We had multiple priests, myself included, a group of seminarians. Like, the thing you were going to do that day was celebrate Mass. But we unfolded a corporal, like we always do. Mm-hmm. And we set a few stones on it because, as I recall, we didn't want the whole Mass to blow away midway through. But we unfolded a corporal and set up an altar on the hood of a Land Cruiser. All of that incredible particularity in a situation that was so otherworldly. I don't know. It's hard not to feel like the Mass is always supposed to be sort of otherworldly. Right. I'm at a chapel where we celebrate Mass for a recorded audience. Everything that is supposed to be profound about the Mass can at times feel reduced to the monotonous. And in that moment, there was nothing monotonous about it. It was utterly extraordinary.
Yeah. How have you been finding awe, joy, wonder in the monotony of the day-to-day here?
There are little moments that sort of surprise you. And it's those moments that I think I would love to say that I'm, such a saintly person, that gratitude is just, that I'm always a charitable person. And that's just factually inaccurate. Mm-hmm. What happens instead is that there'll be little moments that are otherwise completely ordinary. And something within that I, am too far along this Christian discipleship road not to attribute to providence or the movement of the Holy Spirit, some little thing that transfixes my attention. Most of our lives are lived so quickly and in such distracted fashion that, paraphrasing Ferris Bueller, life moves so fast that we don't slow down and we miss it, right? And so one of the little traditions for me in the last year or so has been, I've slowly been refurbishing my parents' old vinyl record collection.
Fantastic.
And my parents grew up in a generation with just tremendous music. And so, I would take on a given evening one or two of these old records, Rumors by Fleetwood Mac or Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen, and just kind of clean it up, remove the static, and just sit and listen to it. And not only is there something really powerful about listening to a whole album, which none of us do in the age of Spotify, but with some of these old records, you literally have the mailing label from my mom with her maiden name, Jeannie Manoni from Highland Park, Illinois. And in a moment, I'm back in her college experience. I'm back with my dad as a young professional before he ever met my mom. And there's a whole new depth of love and appreciation for my parents born out of a vinyl record, right? And the conversations that have ensued because of that, being able to talk with my parents about when they first met, when they were first dating, about some of their old friendships. And not only does that invite them to reflect meaningfully on their own lives, but as their son, these are conversations that are wonderful gifts and ones that I don't take for granted as I get older and as my parents get older. It's easy in a way to think about awe before the grandeur of God when you are on the edge of a crater that contains some of creation's most wildly impressive, mesmerizing beauty, or gazing through a telescope literally upon the created cosmos. It's a different thing when you feel like, my creation is my apartment and my coffee maker and my Zoom screen and my inbox, right? Like there's a way in which at face value, there's not a lot to awe at there. And most people's notion of awe is awe at the end of the week that they managed to get through it all, right? Whatever it is that they sort of were made to carry. But there's something actually awesome in an awful kind of way about the very, I don't want to put this, the shared fragility of humanity right now is itself something that's worthy of awe. And the stories of people sharing humanity, discovering anew their own humanity, the humanity of their neighbors. And for me, the kind of awe that allows you to find God in the Ngorongoro crater or peering through a telescope upon the cosmos is also something that we can encounter through remembrance of generosity, through remembrance of self-gift, through any moment in which we've encountered ourselves as real and loved, right? Yeah, it's great if you find yourself in Rocky Mountain National Park and you're, gazing out upon the Rocky Mountains. It's wonderful if you can study the inner workings of creation and witness something like what, any number of scientists can perceive. But most of us don't have those opportunities every day, and especially not during a pandemic. And I think we can actually go there by way of memory, in the way that every time we celebrate the Eucharist, we become what we receive by doing this in memory of Jesus, right? That whole act of memory, the fancy term is anamnesis, that we recreate by way of memory that which we celebrate. And by recreating, we recreate ourselves. We literally remember ourselves as the body of Christ. And that sort of remembrance is something that can be practiced every day. Even if I don't talk to my parents tonight, even if I don't throw on Linda Ronstadt, like I can go to a place. If I give myself 5 minutes, I can go to a place of remembering the generosity of my parents, the self-gift of my parents, the joy of my parents. That isn't the same as being in their house back in Colorado, certainly, but it's also something that, if given enough time and enough space to perceive it, the kind of time and space that we can give when the world allows us to slow down a little bit, that you can discover a real kind of awe there too.
Father Pat, former RA Pat. If you had an exercise for me to practice what you just described there, or if you had maybe some direction to give me. I don't have any vinyl records, so that's
not necessarily going to work. I mean, there's a simple tradition in the church that many religious pray, and it's not, exclusive to those who are consecrated or ordained, called the Examen. It's a prayer that many people offer at the end of their days in seeking to review the movements of a particular day. Because what the examine invites us to do is to look to those moments in our day when we experienced consolation or desolation. Consolation being those kinds of moments when we feel most alive, when we feel a sense of joy or fullness, hope, trust, goodness, love, like those sorts of realities, more than simple emotionality, those sorts of realities in our day are ones that we may not always be able to name in the moment, but in reflecting after the fact, we can point to this conversation, this encounter, even this challenge, and see a certain deep kind of joy at work. And we would say that's a place where God has been at work, and we can find a sort of awe at that. Conversely, in moments where we feel sort of desolate, if we reflect on a moment that made us doubt ourselves, that made us particularly anxious or fearful or lonely or sad, not that those aren't realities, especially in a painfully difficult year, but those might be moments where God was calling us more deeply into relationship with God or with someone else, right? And in those moments, to be able, at the end of the day, to pay attention and to see how those moments played out, how those moments impacted the rest of our day, that can give us a sense moving into the next day where and how it is that we might encounter God, and how it is ultimately that we can invite God to be a part of our entire day.
Okay, well, it sounds like something I can do. It sounds like something we can give a go here. Thank you for that, Pat. Thank you.
Likewise, Javi. It's always great to be able to talk with you, and thanks in the midst of the monotony of this moment for an opportunity to remember a time when I certainly felt very alive, in no small part because of your friendship and your discipleship. So God bless.
You too. God bless.
Just a wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
But I like how you guys kept coming back to heightened senses of wonder and awe that you've experienced in your life.
Yeah.
And how you have this sense that creation is just alive in those moments. And I think Mila feels that way too when she looks out at the night sky, like this is the universe alive and speaking to us if we have the stillness and solitude to receive it.
And not just the stillness and the solitude, but the dedication to keep looking up. You know, I think that's something that I love so much about Mila's story, is that she says, you know, everyone used to love looking at the stars and wanted to be an astronomer when they were a kid, but she keeps looking up, keeps looking out there, whether it's, you know, to the North Star or to some faraway galaxy cluster, you know, light years away. I think it's a reminder to what Father Pat said is too, that finding awe is a practice. Right. And if you just rely on the times you go to safari in Tanzania to find awe,
which for most of us are never.
Exactly. You're going to be pretty pressed to find wonder in your life.
I loved his example of one of his practices of wonder is to just sit and listen to an entire vinyl record from his parents' collection.
So great.
I love that because so many of us are kind of use music as like background, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of like sitting and listening and appreciating.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that was that these practices of wonder don't have to be super grand. They can be really simple. What did you take away in terms of practices?
We started this conversation talking about how I drink the same amount of coffee at the exact same moment of every day, and I do the same routine every day, and I work out at the same moment every day, and then I do all these things at the same time every day, and feeling that as something really awful and sort of a weight on me. But thinking of what Father Pat said about praying the examen, which I've never done before, but maybe I can sit in those moments and really consider what beauty I might find there.
I think that's awesome. I think the examine, as he described it, is a really accessible way for us to reflect on our day.
Yeah.
It's really just, how did creation come alive for me today? And this nightly reflection, which we call the examine, could be a great practice for us to try to practice wonder and awe.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to give it a go tonight.
You are. Good for you.
I might stare at the stars. Yeah. Why not? We'll see.
I love that. And I can't wait to hear, what happened, what the fruit of that reflection is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep you posted. "8:30 at night, I am going to head to bed, and I am going to try the examine for the first time that Father Pat told me about. Let's see how this goes.
This episode was hosted by Javi Zubizarreta and Sarah Toms. It was produced and edited by Josh Long. Grotto Network is senior producer Javi Zubizarreta and senior editor Josh Noem. Liz Colleran is the assignment desk and event program manager. Michaela Douglas, web content strategist. Becky Ottman, graphic designer. Josh Long, producer. Ben Cruz, associate producer. That's me. Adrian Garalde is our social media manager, and Jessie McCartney is our outgoing social media manager. We will miss her deeply. Tara Kelly and Aaron Williams are our treasured video interns.